What's up, everyone? Paul here from the Hoops Crew to go through the round 10 nomination winner of Nuff of the Week. And this week, I'm keeping it pretty brief. I've spent the last 5 or 6 days in this shed, basically living out of it due to COVID, and I'm free. So I'm going to keep this nice and short and sharp and throw Adelaide supporters under the bus this weekend. Now, the reason for that being is basically their conduct after the loss to the Collingwood Football Club this weekend. And of course, it was unfortunate, and we've seen all the analysis and everything's kind of come out in the wash. And of course, they've had several really close games against the Pies lately and just can't quite crack it. But I tweeted out as the game came to an end yesterday, Saturday, as of when I'm recording this, and just highlighted that, this is going to be received incredibly well. Now, for context for people who somehow have been living under a rock and are unaware, the Pies were smacking the Crows for a little while there, and then the Crows surged and really deserved to win the game. Pies poked their nose back in front, though, at the end. Some Isaac Rankin brilliance nearly won the game for the Crows. Problem is, he ran too far. And we've seen all the feedback come out so far. Fox Footy put out their little, from the hub, their analysis there, and showed that he ran 24.2 meters without bouncing the ball. So, I'm sure now, as people, well, I hope now, as people kind of settle into the aftermath of everything, they're taking it all right. But at the time, I knew exactly how things were going to play out. And I tweeted out, I'm sure Adelaide fans are taking the fact that an umpiring decision has cost them another chance at winning incredibly well. Now, I got a few responses to that, not too many, because I was baiting a little bit. But what we could see on the internet was, across wherever you looked, really, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever the platform, were really fired up Adelaide Crows. And of course, the famous clip that gets trotted out every single time. It happened right in front of me, over and over again. That was brilliant. But that was obviously coming from people who weren't Adelaide supporters, because the Adelaide supporters, they were taking no prisoners. Now, I understand it's been a rough time in the last, kind of 6 months of football for Adelaide supporters, because you've had a few games, and certainly one important one, which was a fight for a spot in the finals. You've had a pretty rough time of it with the umpires lately, and there's been a few games that you've been screwed in, pretty much. If we keep it pretty simple, you've been screwed in a couple. And again, none more important than the final home and away game of last season, where you absolutely should have won that game and the umpires messed it up on you. So I understand that you're feeling a little bit tender and a little bit raw and a little bit hurt by the whole thing. But geez, I tried at the time, did the eye test, and this is before Fox Footy put their thing out. I tried the eye test, and I jumped on KO, and I frame by framed it as best I possibly could. And I was counting strides because I didn't have the means to kind of measure the distance specifically. But, it's like, 16, 17 strides is, I think, how I kind of followed up that tweet with. Like, that's right on the fringe, may or may not be. People didn't like that. It's just a way that, and look, I'm targeting Adelaide supporters with this because it's fresh and it's their, it's just happened to involve them. But really, this is a message for everyone, regardless of who you support. And we saw a lot of this off the back of Carlton's loss as well on the weekend. Geelong supporters weren't necessarily amazing. Pockets of Geelong supporters, I should say. We love you. We're, anyone who's a Geelong supporter, we love you more than anyone else. But even some of you weren't great in our loss to Gold Coast this weekend either. There's a bit of me that's, wanting to shift this Nuff of the Week from Adelaide supporters to supporters of AFL in general. You've been kind of rubbish. There's a way that we can conduct ourselves online, but in person as well, that doesn't require the sort of negative bullshit that we see all the time. It's complaint, it's complaint, it's complaint. It's negativity, it's abuse, it's blaming someone, it's taking the loss like it's a personal affront. It's not. You can love your club, and I love my club. And I think about Carlton, and I think about Pommy as an example. Recent guest on Behind the Play. He adores his club and will fight to the ends of the earth for that club. But he does so showing the utmost respect for the players, for the fans, for the opposition. And I got a lot of time for people like that. And the problem is, there's not many people out there that are behaving themselves in that way. It's ridiculous what we're seeing on the internet these days. It's ridiculous what we see in crowds these days. Supporters in general need to take a good, hard look at themselves and the way they carry themselves. We can speak to each other better while still be disappointed. We can still pick out flaws in the club without being abusive and targeting players online or whatever it happens to be. We can still have a bet on the game if that's your thing and not, again, pick on players if they fail to get the 20 disposals you needed to make your multi work. Like, it's all just a bit ridiculous where we're at now. Adelaide supporters are copying it because they were the ones that were most vocal off the back of a loss, and then the evidence came out afterwards to show that they were wrong. Whether it was the number of steps, whether it was the number of steps that were too much, whether it was the number of meters covered that was too much, and again, Fox kind of highlighted that. Whether you even just, and the thing that I actually also failed to do at the time when I was kind of analysing was remember that each strip, the mode strips on the MCG, are about 10 meters apart, and he covered 2.5 of them. I'm like, okay. There you go. Like, there's clearly enough there. Yes, it may have lost you the game. And let's not lose sight of the fact that he delivered the ball inside 50 and no one marked it. So we don't even know what might have played out from there. It certainly looked like it was going to result in at least a shot on goal. But we don't know. Just settle down. AFL supporters in general. Crows supporters this weekend or this Saturday. But you can make the argument maybe for Hawthorn supporters after how they've lost. Haven't seen any comments from them. They're just, I think about the nature of their loss and I can only imagine what sort of behaviour we're getting. I think about Carlton supporters and what I've seen from them. I think about Geelong supporters and what I've seen from them this week, from some of them this weekend. It's just, we don't need to behave like this. We can speak to each other in respectful ways. We can put our thoughts on the internet and not be smart asses about it. Or no, you can be smart. There's nothing wrong with being a bit cheeky, a bit tongue in cheek sort of stuff and having a little bit of fun without being abusive. We don't need to take everything as a personal affront. But we also can find ourselves in these positions where we take personal affront to some comments and those sort of things because there's just so much negative crap that's out there. So let's all take a moment, catch our breaths, and speak about football in a better way. We don't need to abuse each other. We don't need to abuse the players. We don't need to take personal umbrage with what happens in the game. We can be disappointed for our team and not be a dickhead on the internet. It's that simple. Love your club, love the game, but you don't need to love being an arsehole. You can actually speak really constructively and have really deep conversations, as fortunately we get to have with some amazing people. And I think about, I rewind to the Geelong and Gold Coast game on Thursday night, and I think about the conversations that Ben and I got to have in post-game live with a whole range of the Geelong supporting fan base that jumped in the call. And please, if you haven't already done so, and this is a little bit of a plug for that, but go, after win, lose or draw, come and join us in the post-game live show, because it's a great time for starters, but also it seems to be drawing a really intelligent crowd who come in and talk about the game respectfully. Yeah, we have a bit of fun as well, regardless. But come and join it, check it out. It'll be great fun. And it's a great outlet to talk properly about the game. We can be constructive about this game. We can be respectful when we're talking about this game. We can be respectful when we're interacting with our clubs and with our players. And if only more people did it, we'd have a better game. As a little aside, also, the people who are continually being racist on the internet this weekend for Sir Doug Nicholls' round and poking fun at the clubs for their traditional name, their Indigenous name that they've embraced for the weekend. We're 9 minutes into the video here. I don't worry about language. Fuck you guys. You guys suck. We don't need to conduct ourselves in this way. And some of you are just doing it not because you actually care about this thing. It's just because you want to rile people up, and that's even worse. Just stop. Take a breath. Be nice to each other. Crows fans, I'm sorry about how things played out. Rankin ran too far. Hawthorn supporters, I'm sorry how things turned out. You choked a bit at the end. Carlton supporters, Geelong supporters, we just put bad nights in, but we don't need to lose our minds over it. Let's sit back and be constructive in the way that we speak about the game, and we'll have a far better game. That's enough for the week this week. I think we'll move beyond Crow supporters to talk about all supporters, really. Thanks a lot for watching. Remain Geelong strong. Check out all of the awesome Hoops Crew content. I'll see you later.